All right. Hey, guys, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Jason Reagan, and we're going to be talking all about how we can use drones in education. So I've got this expert panel here around me. I am working at Chadwick International School in Incheon, South Korea, and I'm going to tell you all about the way we use drones. We've got lots of different ways we use them, but I'd love for these guys to introduce themselves. So, Stu, you want to go first?
Sure. My name's Stuart. I work with Jason at Chadwick in South Korea. As far as drones go, I am an amateur drone pilot, self-taught, but I've been using them, trying to learn more about them for what we do at school. I run an outdoor education program, and so it's been a fun journey flying them around Korea.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, I'm Craig Frehlich. I'm from Singapore, but originally from Canada, where I use most of our drone stuff. So we had a after-school club that used drones, and then, like Stuart, we have an intense outdoor ed program. So we took drones on all our outdoor ed trips.
Oh, nice.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name's Rob. I work in Seoul, and I've kind of been using drones mostly for actually teaching teachers how to use drones. My school doesn't have a program. The problem is living in Seoul, we actually can't fly drones. It's a no-fly zone. So even though I do have drones, we're not supposed to use them outside school very much. But I'll be talking a little bit about how to use a little guy like this with students and coding. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Nice.
Great. I'm Terry Linton. I'm in Beijing, China, originally from Winnipeg, Canada. I'm the curriculum director at the Beanstalk Education Group. I'm very interested to learning quite a bit more about drones, to how they can fit into the curriculum and how to get kids really involved and actively engaged with using these things, because you know they love them.
Absolutely.
Hi guys, my name is David Mack. I'm from Ireland originally, currently in Suzhou, China. I'm much like you guys, trying to get other teachers involved in using drones with their different applications and just have fun with flying them myself, to be honest.
And they are fun. That's probably that's the part that everyone loves, is how fun they are. So that's awesome. Well, let's see. Who would like to tell a little bit about how how they got into droning and sort of what they've been using it for at the moment in their school or even recreationally? Craig, you want to go first?
I will. I'd love to go first.
Great.
So as I alluded to, back in Canada, it was the wild, wild west when DJI first released a bunch of their drones. In Canada, there were no rules or regulations. And so our school picked one up quite quickly, and we were flying them in national parks. We basically could fly them everywhere and anywhere. And so the kids got accustomed to this, especially on our outdoor ed trips. I would train a few kids, we'd do canoeing trips, we do cross-country skiing trips, and then they would help me do the footage. Mostly on our, we'd stop at a certain location along the river, we'd pull out the drone, we'd get amazing footage that the admissions department would just salivate over. I look at those pictures now, and they would be worth probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, because the drone regulations in Canada have tightened up since then. And so you're not allowed to fly drones, for example, in a national park like Banff National Park. And yet we have footage of cross-country skiing, back 5 or 6 years ago of us in Banff National Park, which, like I said, could probably sell for a lot of dollars. So, and then quickly we did a club. It was like a after-school CCA club where we started to upskill kids. So we had little hula hoops, which basically taught them proper flying skills, because more and more regulations were coming in, and people who were getting licenses needed to sort of show a certain level of competency in regards to how they could fly these drones.
That's awesome. I love how you got into that. That's very personal. So that's really awesome.
I can go next. Kind of tag on to what Craig's talking about with outdoor ed.
Yeah.
And so for me, drones, kind of a funny story is we were scouting a course area for one of our trips in Korea near a provincial park. And for like several days in a row, this photographer, like a local photographer, we just kept running into the guy, and he had a drone. He's flying it around, and we kept joking like, man, we need to buy our own drone because that's going to save us so much time of walking and looking, and we could just fly over here, fly over there. We have all this data. And then a year later, Jason, our school got drones, and I just started salivating, checked out the drone, got on YouTube, started to try to learn how to fly it. And our goal was to create, a little bit of marketing videos for our program. But really we wanted to show parents and students, what it's like out there beyond school, and try to make things tangible and show these locations. As a result, flying them in the field for outdoor ed has been a great way to engage kids, especially the older kids, because usually they're better pilots than I am. They want to interact with it, and it's a great way to take that stuff back into school and back into the classroom.
Yeah, and I can say Stuart has been a really quick self-study, and I'm going to post, hopefully, if he doesn't mind, the link afterwards in the description, because the videos the footage he's taken is absolutely spectacular. So I can put all your guys' stuff up there. That would be sweet.
Thanks.
Thanks, Stu. Rob, you want to go?
Yeah. So
right.
my introduction to drone kind of started out small and then got bigger. I was contacted by Parrot, if you don't know, they're a French drone maker, and they have a little drone here, and it's called the Mambo. It's toy size, but it's actually quite controllable and quite stable. And they wanted me to bring this to summits to teach teachers how to use it with coding. This little guy connects with, let's see, what does it connect with? You can use Python, you can use Tinker, you can use Dashboard, and you can use Swift if you're in Apple School. Okay. And you can link to it directly using USB. And a tablet, say, and you can code it with block coding for the little ones, and you can get more complicated. And it's got little things like it's got a little cannon on it, and you can get little grippers. And I just took it out into the field, and I showed teachers how to code with it. And actually, I'm in the comments right now. I'm going to put a link for people to check out. Okay. I don't know if I can, or maybe Jason.
I've already popped something up. Yep, for that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I use that kind of to get into drones, and then I got a camera drone. Oh, now, nice. We did take some video of the school and around, but what I actually started using this for was for 360 pictures. I don't know if you guys have you guys ever heard of Kula, the website Kula, Kuula? Okay, so. Jason, I'm going to post another link. But with these drones, the nice thing about them is that basically you can set it to do a 360 picture for you. Oh wow! And if you don't have a 360 camera, because a lot of people don't, right? But if you buy a small drone that has a 360 capability, you can create 360 tours all around your school.
Oh wow! Okay, cool. Yeah, we have one of those.
Yeah. So, so even if you're limited, like in a city like ours, you can even use these drones. These drones are like, this one is small enough that you can fly it inside if there's no kids around. Right. If you're playing it safe, and you can, you can take some nice 360s of classrooms or your gym or that sort of thing, or anywhere you go, you can use that. So drones aren't just for outdoors.
That's exactly right. I was going to add to that those small Mambos are great because you can fly them inside without much trouble. And David, I'm sure, will share a story of us trying to fly in the gym with a large drone.
To be honest, I actually think that the larger drones are kind of on their way out in terms of education, because you don't need the Phantom anymore for a school.
No.
Like
Yeah,
you can get the DJI Mavic Mini, which is a 4K with over 20 minutes of flight time.
That's right.
You can fly that in, just a normal
in a room.
size. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think that's been the big the missing component is being able to really safely fly it inside with all the, I mean, I think, David will talk in a minute, but we used to think about the gym being like a big Faraday cage. It was all this metal and rebar and things around it. And it made it really hard for us to control. We had some escape artist moments trying to fly a big one inside because, of all the interference. So it was nice that there's these smaller drones that you can fly down a hallway or have inside the gym at a basketball game or something like that.
Yeah,
but also the cost. Yeah,
the cost too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Dave?
Yeah, we had some fun with that. Like the big drones, I think we in China got in on the tail end of the big drones, the Phantoms. Yeah. Just before the Mavics were getting in really, really popular. Trying to use it inside has got so many possibilities. Like I see a lot of schools are now doing like virtual tours of the school by using drone footage instead of big dollies and stuff like that. There's just so many applications for it, and they're so easy to fly with even if you're using something like a DJI Spark, you've got the hand gestures where little kids can use it so easily. But yeah, we've still got the Phantom rocking around, but we've got a really big campus and we don't really have restrictions on where we can fly around where we are. So we're lucky we can still make good use of it like that.
Right.
But if you're in a small space, you're really looking towards the real small ones. Those Mambos are awesome. I would wonder though, with the Mambos, Rob, and their applications in coding, can you sort of use them like a robot camera? I've seen a lot of YouTubers talking about like pre-planned shots where it pans across. Can you get it to do that sort of stuff?
Well, the thing with the Mambo is that you can get I got lucky like a couple of years ago. They actually showed me a pre-production one. There is a camera for the first person flying that they see with the Mambo. It's got like a hot shoe on the top.
Yeah,
you can see it there. So there is a camera that you can put on there, but the camera's the resolution's pretty not that great. It's just for flying. You can't really code the bigger ones. So,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, the one thing I really do like about having the Mambo for the coding, it just gives that extra dimension, so you can make the, there's a video in the chat, but it shows teachers like making it take off, turning, shooting a target, and then going underneath something. It just kind of helps kids think a little more three-dimensionally. It's in addition to having a coding robot, just something a little more exciting. Now, with that, you also do, I mean, even though it's a small drone, I mean, a kid could maybe cut their finger if they grabbed it, or if they're silly. So, I mean, before you use it, it's like anything, definitely have to have like a strong safety conversation with kids, and maybe even, safety goggles just to be extra safe. But, it's not really dangerous, but it's just something that you should be aware of. I would be.
Yeah, I speak from firsthand experience of the dangers of droning. David knows I almost lost my right arm with the Phantom one time. So it's stuff of legends. But so Terry, tell me a little bit about your interest in drones.
Okay, so I'm in the WeChat group. I don't know how many of you guys are in that drone WeChat group. So I've been lurking in that group for quite some time and seeing all the really cool things that schools are doing and that people are doing with their clubs and with their groups. Where my interest lies is giving an opportunity for it to get into the curriculum and finding a way for there to be some kind of curricular aspect of it. So it's not just a fun thing to do. It's not just a club. There's something of actual relatable value that you could justify to your administration. And this is why you want to do this. This is why that program is going to be So that's kind of where my interest lies in terms of how can we use these so that we can add to what's going on in terms of that. So I could see that really pops up in my mind is PE or PHE, depending on what your school calls it. But there's all sorts of opportunities for a drone to go up to take long-range footage of you coaching and working on plays and developing aspects of that play or developing aspects of what kind of program you're doing. So there's certainly applications therein in terms of that. But that's where my interest lies, is that how can we make them just, instead of being kind of a fun toy, into something that that is going to really aid and enable kids to learn something better.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And to add,
sorry.
let's go ahead, David.
We got a rugby team in the school, and it's a real kind of play orientated sport, sort of like the NFL. So we had a PE teacher who was super interested to see how his team performed in defense and offense, and they wanted to see what they looked like on the field from above. So that was a perfect example to get the drone out. We took footage of 10, 15 minutes of their plays, and then they were able to look over that sort of at home and then just come back and look at it the next practice. And then it was really useful to see their movement on the field rather than looking side to side in front of them, to be able to see themselves like a computer game. Really gave them a sense of that. It was really interesting stuff for them.
Yeah, I was just going to add, it was along with the sports. I mean, with Google Maps and but things that you can upload with the 360 pictures you can take with drones, and with the aerial shots you can take, you can really add to like those Google Tour, the Google Tour creator, and that sort of thing. So you can really kind of have kids creating, instead of using images online, they can really create their own images of like their own neighborhood or their favorite place in the school or their favorite place in the schoolyard. You can really get those nice high shots.
Right.
So it allows them to explore a bigger world. Like I sent my drone, before I found out Seoul was a no-fly zone, I sent my drone up about 100 meters, and I got it to do a 360 panorama picture.
Wow.
And then I got the students to some kids are like, I live over here and I go swimming here and we go shopping here. So it created a lot of really good conversation, because that bird's eye view really I don't know. It's just, it gets kids excited so they can see the whole world around them. Yeah.
I'll piggyback on that, Rob. As Jason knows, I'm a MYP design workshop leader. And so I was just in Adelaide a few months ago trying to help teachers develop their MYP design units. So this one lady, like you, Rob, had a bunch of drones, and she's like, I have them use them as camera tools. And in MYP, we try and hook it to authentic real world experience. And so she brainstormed how drones are used in the real life. And, monitoring crops is a big sort of use of drones in many places. So we wrapped that back to her, and they had a huge campus like many of us do in our affluent international schools. And I said, you could simulate like some sort of scenario where the kids had to program it to monitor up and down pylons, and so as number one, the key concept here is it's an amazing communication device. The related concept, which Rob, you already talked about, is the perspective that humans can't provide that a drone can, and all of a sudden that wrapped into this lovely MYP unit for this lady. That's
awesome. Yeah. Stu, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you've done with the outdoor education and how you used it I know this last bit in the fall, you used it pretty extensively. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. For us, the idea is how do we bring the field and all the fun stuff we do there back home. In outdoor ed, it's place-based education, so it's hard to communicate to parents where these things that are really intangible to them, what we're doing with kids, where we're doing it with kids, and why that's important. And that's the drone, like what you guys are talking about, the drone adds that level of perspective that we just can't get on the ground or through stories or through photos. And so that's really our main goal of taking the drone into the field with us.
And then what did you use that footage for? What'd you do with it next?
Yeah, I have, and I still have more videos planned. And so, the idea is that we can make, they're sort of marketing videos, but they're not really. They're really supposed to be educational videos for kids and parents and teachers. We're just trying to make them fun and interesting. And so, we have a YouTube channel that parents and kids can log into and see what their kid will be doing and kind of get an idea of the place that we're going to take them to and the beauty and the grandness and the scope of that place. Right. And then the other side of it is educational videos. So more about, this is, a helpful tip for whatever you have for sleeping outside or, how can we bring those lessons back into the classroom before they even go?
Absolutely. Rob, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know we're talking about the perspective. The drone gives you shots that you can't get otherwise, but don't forget that on every drone, there's a gimbal with a 4K camera, most of these cameras. And I've walked around with the drone in my hand shooting video sometimes. It's not just, it's a little more of a MacGyver tool than some people give them credit for. Cause if you don't need sound and you just want to maybe, you can hold it in your hand and walk down a hallway and get an amazing shot. And Absolutely. Then you can, like I've done stuff where basically I've walked through the school and I've walked down some stairs with the drone in my hand to have more control. And then I bring it down and actually do a flying shot. And then I can stitch those together. And it looks like the drone's actually gone down the stairs and out the door without me crashing it. So, you can use it for a lot of stuff. It's really just your own imagination.
Absolutely.
Yeah, some of the best shots I think that we have. Obviously the stuff up high is really cool to see, all that stuff. But even down low, and we're not going to bring like a gimbal and all this stabilizer stuff with us in the field. We're trying to go light and fast, get in and get out of the field. And so just getting the drone down low and getting that first person view of the kids and whatever they're doing, because it's stabilized, and like you said, because that camera's so awesome, and it's really phenomenal footage that's coming out.
Absolutely.
And you only have one storage card to deal with as well.
That's true. Yeah, and I think, Craig, you were going to add something about the safety aspect of letting kids handle drones.
Yeah, we've already joked about it, half lost digits and limbs and stuff. And, in today's day and age, safeguarding is paramount. And so, I work in design, and we have these sort of little training sessions that kids have to have. If they want to use the laser cutter, they have to get upskilled. If they want to use the saw, they have to have training first. And, I think drones are the same thing. And, what does that look like? Is it, drone university? I'm not sure. I haven't, to be honest, the last couple of years here in Singapore, I haven't used drones. It's more back in Canada. So, if I'm a listener of this podcast, I would ask you guys, like, what sort of safety do we have to make sure kids endure before they're allowed to touch a drone?
Yeah. David, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, we're looking at the idea of having sort of a driving license for staff. I'm not too keen on letting students around with a couple of $100 worth of drone on their own. So we want to get as many staff as we can sort of upskilled on the basics and get them qualified so they can then supervise students who are piloting or recording video and stuff like that. Or for the younger students, they can pilot it for them. We're kind of in the feeling out stage of how to do that. Is there going to be agreements? Is there going to be insurance issues and all this sort of stuff that depends on your own context? But I think it's whatever your school policies allow you to do. It's sort of we're on the bleeding edge of what schools are doing here, so we have to sort of risk it a little bit maybe.
Well, you probably have to write those policies as well, as some of those things for some of this new tech won't really exist. So you'd have to create it kind of on the spot as you go with some of these things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to say too, with having students flying drones, I mean, definitely having, you've got the Mambo or you've got the DJI Tello.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can actually, I don't think that there's any real need for the kids flying the big ones. I think you as the teacher could be the tool, and they say, hey, I want this shot. Can you do that?
Right.
And then you do that for them. So give them as much input as you can, but also keep them, because if something does happen, you don't want them feeling bad. And then there's the whole thing about, they're responsible, you're responsible. Yeah, the financial thing. But I mean, if you do want to get kids who are practicing their flying skills, because that might be something they're really interested in.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mambo and the Tello, I believe, are, I don't know in China, but in Korea, they're about $110. And I think in the States, they're about $100.
Yeah.
And they're pretty sturdy. So, if kids really want to start flying drones and going beyond coding them and actually just controlling them and maybe making a course or something, those smaller drones are actually really stable. But also, you're not going to cry if you crash one, and you probably could crash it and it'll survive.
Yeah, they're pretty hardy. Rob, you've got a person here in Korea that deals with those small Parrot drones, and so you can buy them with different attachments, and you can buy them with different abilities. And so we bought a couple of those just for our younger students to take an iPad and do some block coding and go for it, and just give it a shot. And I'm not too hurt if, one of them breaks in the sense that, it's just $70. And if I get a year out of it, that's great. That ends up being consumable at that point versus a fixed asset of the the Mavic Pro 2 or whatever.
But it's also great for empowering kids. They look what I
Absolutely.
can do. I mean that's worth the worth the cost of a drone.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Stuart, you wanted to tag on something? Oh, sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, that's one of the things that in Korea kids really feel not very empowered most times, because everything in their life is controlled. Like everything, every moment of their day,
everything,
where they need to go. So getting them out onto the school, into the gym or something, and asking them to do something, and have them take control of something that they consider, oh wow, this is like a machine that I'm controlling. I mean, that's beside everything, just the positive mental attitude. I think is a benefit. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'd agree with Rob. And for me, I've been trying to learn how to fly a drone for myself. And it's been really exciting to see a lot of the kids really get excited when the drone gets pulled out and they want to know how to fly it. They go back to class and they go to their video class and they're like, man, I saw Mr. Slay have this drone. I saw his footage and I want to learn how to do this. And I think to, and tag on to David's point about safety and policies is that, the drones are complex machines. They do really cool things. They have a lot of liability for the school and for the personal user. And so, for anyone who's trying to convince their school to buy drones or start a drone program or whatever it might be, along with all the educational convincing that we need to do, we also need to come prepared with policies and procedures and have ideas for how we're going to manage this, and really laying that out to the administration as far as scaffolding that skills with kids, which I'm curious to hear more from some of the MIP folks, but also, what is the checklist for kids to use this that's going to protect them, the school, and our equipment?
Absolutely. Craig, you want to add something to that? You were just talking about MYP.
Yeah. First of all, I echo what Stuart said. We're in a day and age where, we are so accountable to what kids do and the responsibility that we entail as pastoral caregivers. But being a Canadian, Cirque du Soleil actually has an amazing sort of art piece or performance that I put in the chat where they use drones as part of one of their drama installations, and I showed it back in Canada a few years ago to our theater department, and they were enthralled and thrilled. And you joke, Jason, and I think David, about using the big Phantom indoors. So we tried so hard to try and use it in our theater, because it would be a great piece, and the firmware and the GPS tracking was just so suspect that it wasn't going to work for one of our big musical performances. But if you look at the clip, Cirque du Soleil has basically figured out, as they do for many things, such a creative sort of use of drones, even in drama. So if there are drama teachers out there listening, there's a place for these drones for that. And even the Olympics, if you guys remember, there were a couple Olympics where drones were used as sort of pieces towards entertainment as well. Right.
There's definitely an artistic side to that.
Yeah, and Craig too. I mean, you were using DJI, right? Or DJI. Now, I don't know. I know for Parrot, but I know some other drones. DJI is they're very responsible, but that they're also very much in terms of babysitting. So when you're looking at a drone, if you think, okay, I want to be using this indoors, or maybe my school grounds are in an area that might, like, we actually live near the Korean Blue House, the Korean White House that's blue. And we, with the DJI Phantom the school bought, they took it out of the box and it wouldn't take off. Even though we were keeping it like, we're planning to keep it like at 10 meters and just shoot it for like taking pictures of students, very low level within our own property, they couldn't use it. So if you are going to get a drone, double check the area, double check. I believe DJI has an app that'll show you in color. So, or if you are in one of those areas and you only want to use it at low level or indoors, like in a theater, look at some other companies like Parrot, or I don't know if you guys know any other ones that aren't as babysitter-ish. I don't know. Maybe David, you got something to add? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted there.
It was a great point, David.
It's probably for everyone's benefit.
The best point you made all night.
All night.
Yeah, I remember I went to Macau to talk about drones and education, similar to what we're talking about here, and had all my presentation ready, had my flight plan, sort of what I was going to do and show people what to do. And then about a day before I flew out, I realized that the whole of Macau is a no-fly zone because the airport is so close to everything that I was basically in their airspace. So I went and gave a whole talk about how we can use drones, and the drones didn't get 1 centimeter off the table for the whole weekend. So you've really got to do your homework before you invest.
And the thing is, those areas are changing constantly. And that whenever I fire up the DJI, it's always updating the maps and always updating the current zones. And so we're pretty close to the airport here, Stu. So sometimes I'm worried that we're going to get cut off from flying, to be honest with you. But I think you make a good point, Rob, about the checking out what the drones are able to do. Are they able to fly inside? Are they able to, do these other things? So I think if people are listening and they're wanting to start up using drones in their classroom or at their school, think about it pretty carefully, do some shopping around. Don't just go with what the first thing people say.
And the smaller drones, I mean, if you want to start slow, get a couple smaller drones and just see how it feels. And if you want to get a bigger one, then maybe do that instead of getting the best, newest, most expensive thing. I mean, it's always better to kind of start slow and upgrade than to go too far and then have your administration say, look at all that money you threw out, and then we never used it. So
before we go any further, Terry, his internet dropped out, so he was not able to come in. So he wanted to say bye to everybody. But one of the things he wanted to ask about was the restrictions. And so I think it's such a fluid situation. I don't know how much we can really talk about it. I think the thing we can say is make sure you check your local area to make sure that you know what the restrictions are. I know in China, before I left, Dave, I don't know if they're still doing it. They were looking at creating like a classification of pilots where you could or couldn't fly at a certain height or something like that. Is that still going on, David? Do you know?
We had our HR guys look into that, and they couldn't find a straight answer.
Okay.
But I did have a friend. He was thinking about bringing one back to the States. He's our IT director this year, and he was notified that none of the DJI drones are allowed to fly if you've brought them from China. So you have to fly them in the States. If you bring one from China, so the paranoia is real about
yes,
that sort
about
of thing.
that. Yeah. Okay.
So you got to be careful where you buy it as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Stu, did you have any trouble? Have you taken well, you bought a drone in Korea, or did you buy it in the US?
My personal one I bought in the States.
Okay.
The school drones, I don't know where those came from originally. I want to say Hong Kong.
Our dealers in Hong Kong. Yeah, we get our DJI out of Hong Kong.
Yeah, I haven't had a ton of problems. You know, I mean, Korea is full of, you know, Air Force bases. And so the only thing that's ever happened to me is I've gotten a phone call with the drone in midair from the government, and I didn't know what they were saying, so I just landed it and decided to leave. Yeah.
Oh, I'd have loved to have heard that.
Yeah, but you know, I always check an app. The one that I use is called Drone Buddy. And I mean, there's just restrictions everywhere. They're constantly changing and different levels of restrictions. In general, you know, public land, depending on the protection of public land, in most countries, it seems like they have restrictions on flying. And then it's just good to ask local people. You know, if you're going to fly around a local town or local village or something, ask the local people. You know, get their unofficial permission. Let them know what's going on, because sometimes, you know, they don't want to be invaded in their home.
And to be a good drone pilot, just the rule of thumb is don't fly over people ever.
Yeah.
If you can avoid it, and don't go too high, and don't fly the drone as far as it can go. Keep it so that you can see where it is. And you also might want to, I've seen a lot of professional pilots do this. If you're going to take it out in a school setting and you want to make sure that you're being of the utmost safety, is like maybe even just put a piece of paper on your back saying, "I'm flying a drone, don't talk to me." Or something to that effect. I mean, I've seen the best, because when you're flying a drone, you do have to concentrate.
Absolutely.
So to keep things safe, I mean, something like that. And, you know, you want and to go along with that, I mean, like, I always say with drones, go as small as you can. With the new Mavic Mini, unless you need something more, go with the smallest drone that you need. Because then if something does happen, you're minimizing any damage, and you're also minimizing risk.
Absolutely. Also, that's great advice for folks who are looking to get into the drone business. So sorry, go ahead, Craig.
That's okay. Also, some events in some places around the world, you know, like we often were asked to do drone for the cross-country running meet, or do drone footage for, you know, the track and field. And so in Canada, I don't know about other places, you had to let participants know either on your website or through some sort of brochure that the event was going to be telecast or recorded with a drone, so that people were aware ahead of time, so that they weren't alarmed, or, you know, there's privacy rights, etc. So that's something to think about as well. Okay.
Yeah. That's great. That's good advice. I think for folks who are looking to get into droning, you know, I think smaller is better, like what Rob was saying at the beginning. I think had I to do it again, I would go with the small stuff. I know Rob was showing his. This is the one that I've been using, which is smaller than the Phantom, but it's still quite large. And luckily I have some experience with it, but I think for, the students, I'm very hesitant for any student, except for maybe a few of our seniors who are film students who have had training. There's very few students I would let fly that without very strict training and supervision. So, sorry, was someone going to add to that?
I just had a point about, in design or even science, there's opportunity to use drones where the challenge is to modify them, different shaped propellers, again, safety is obviously a factor, but, how do you make your drone perform better? There's some sort of STEM and STEAM applications, because our propellers would often break lots, and we would buy new ones, and because we had lots of 3D printers, I gave a challenge to some of the kids to say, you 3D print me a better propeller, and the game was on. So
were they able to do it, Craig?
Not that well. We had Ultimakers, which were good printers, but just the level of the layer of the plastics just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it just doesn't. I know. Yeah, it doesn't layer well enough, and that's the thing, is that it's great that we can rapid prototype, but at some point we want to have something that we can actually have a little bit more durability. But I think some of the some of the newer ones could, but that's nuts.
Well, you have to get the angles really exact, especially with propellers, because if they're not, you're going to get a lot of vibration, and you might wreck a motor, or it might just come flying out of the sky. So
exactly, yeah. And so, Rob, you were saying something about so Stu had someone call him in mid-flight. What are some other crazy stories you guys have had that have happened to you while you're flying?
Well, we had at our school, we have a thing called October Festival, and that's like a big music and like sports sort of thing. And we had the drone up, and we were taking just aerial shots of the crowd. And with Korea, there's all these apartments, and a woman, and it wasn't facing the apartments, but it was she saw the backlights flashing, because most drones will have lights to tell you which direction they're pointing, and she just saw a flashing light, and she thought that someone was flying a drone and trying to catch a candid video or picture of her. So she called the cops, and the cops came in.
Oh wow.
But I mean, the thing with drones is you just have to just look around and use your common sense. So,
yeah, absolutely. David, we had a few things crazy happen to us when we were in Suzhou. You want to tell us about anything particular?
Yeah, we've had some near misses and things like that. We got a big open campus, and we unlocked the professional mode on our DJI drone. Took it up as high as it could, and it's so hard with those older drones. They don't have as much control, and whoever thought that making a drone white in color was a good idea needs their head examined. There's a design challenge for you. What color should you make your drone? Something
the same as the clouds.
Let's make it that color. So we've lost it a few times and had I'm out of battery and I'm landing. Where am I? But on the topic of students getting involved with stuff outside of piloting, we've had some cool projects where aerodynamic studies through science and the extended essay, and we've had lots of personal projects and things like that. But in terms of problems, we haven't had any peeping Tom accusations yet. But we have had some air traffic control issues. We had about 3 drones on campus at once for a sports day, where we had our drone in the air doing some sort of sweeping overhead shots of what was going on for the day. And then there was a parent who insisted on following their child through the 400-meter race. And another one was filming the whole thing. And we just had to shut it all down because it was just too much, too many birds in the air. It was going to be a disaster.
Yeah, don't say anything about helicopter parents. with that one.
Yeah, somebody's gonna make that joke.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Craig, has anything crazy ever happened to you while you were flying, or?
Not crazy like that. I guess that's my sort of German background. But I used to take our school drone on vacation. So we were in the Cayman Islands, and rewind a few years where drones weren't so prolific. So we'd go to the hotel and I'd sort of show up with my drone and say, we love our room, but I have this drone. If I can provide you with footage of your like beach and the hotel and stuff, you think you'd upgrade me? And that worked for me all the time. I used to get like,
really?
One time I got the presidential suite because I offered these amazing videos to this, some of these developing countries don't necessarily have access to this. So, nowadays that may be rare, but that was a great ticket for me to save some money.
Oh, wow. That's a great story, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really fun. I know I enjoy flying them for personal, just recreation as a hobby, and that's always good. I think the craziest thing ever happened to me was I got eat up by one on the arm, but I came in a little hot for a landing. Let's just say that. It's the stuff of legends.
I'm going to let you tell that story. I'm not going to rat on you.
Yeah. So basically, I came in a little hot to try to land it, to switch out batteries, and I might have clipped a tree, and it might have tumbled down the tree, still going, and I might have grabbed it out of instinct, and it came up like a weed whacker and went right across my arm. So let's just say I have the battle scars. So I'll show you guys sometime from from getting clipped by one of those. But it can happen very quickly. And I think going back to the safety aspect of using these with students, we just have to be really, really careful and cautious of how we're doing that and who we're involving and that kind of thing. So if anyone's looking to use these in school, make sure you're quite selective with how you work with students doing that. I love the idea of the Parrot, the really small ones, that like what Rob was done. It's even fun for adults. It's a great thing to pull out for a PD afternoon and just have some teachers try to figure out how to shoot the little BB, the little rubber pellet at a target, or to pick up a Post-it note or whatever. It's pretty sweet. And then for them, they've never done anything like that, a lot of them. And so it's really fun to try that out. So it's a really good PD, and it's great for the administration to see that as well, because they're inexpensive, but there's a lot of really cool learning that goes on there. So, all right, cool. So you guys have anything else you want to add? This has been an awesome discussion. Where do you guys go if you're just interested in finding out more about droning? What are some really good resources? I like to watch drone races on YouTube, just typing in drone race or drone racing league and go and watching some of those. What are some places you guys go that you might want to share out that you've, some resources for inspiration? Nobody.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. I was just in the background. There's a guy. I'm just trying to find his YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's Captain Drone. Yeah.
That's Stuart. You didn't know that's Stuart right there. It's Stuart.
No, I didn't know.
He's right there. Boom.
There's a lot of stuff. I mean, if you're interested on drones, just probably YouTube, I would say.
Okay.
I mean, Casey Neistat. He's I mean, if you really want to get into creating those amazing shots, like Casey Neistat is really, he'll give you an honest opinion on anything, because he's had so many drones that for him they're just a tool. Right. So you can kind of see what's possible. So I would say maybe yeah. Okay, that's what I'd recommend. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I've learned almost everything I know about drones from the internet, from YouTube. And also from Skillshare. And so I learned a lot of stuff on Skillshare, and there's short programs that you can follow and take that are teach you whatever you want to know about drones.
Okay.
And then on YouTube, if you search drone filming or like shot techniques or shot list or something like this,
right.
There's a ton of good resources to really break it down those skills for filming. And the same thing with like drone setup. How do I fly my drone? Just type that stuff into YouTube.
Yep.
And and you can look up your exact drone and learn how to follow somebody on the internet.
Yeah.
Also, Instagram's great. Sorry, Rob.
No, I was just going to say you should also search for drone crashes.
Oh, there are some epic crashes. Yeah. Absolutely, man. Yeah. Go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to say, in addition to what Stuart and everyone else said, just following people on Instagram to get ideas of, different shots. Like Drone U, I follow them on Instagram.
Yeah.
They're heavily involved in the States. They actually do training for, photographers who want to get their commercial license to get sort of shots. And so Drone U is a great Instagram account to follow.
Okay. That's great. Yeah. Maybe what we can do is sort of put together a list if we have some ideas. I've been putting things into the comments so that people can see that. But what I'm thinking is maybe putting them onto the description later on, or at least maybe we can create a folder or something with all these different things in them. But what would be great is if people know how to get in touch with you if they want to know more questions. So I know that Craig and Rob and Dave are all on Twitter. Stuart, do you have a Twitter account that you want to share, or is that for personal use?
You can follow on my politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have one. It's just my name, Stuart Slay.
Stuart Slay. Okay. Yep. We'll put them all in the description later so everybody can have a look at that. So that's awesome. Okay. So just one last thing before we kind of start to wrap things up. How would you see using this as towards the coding and programming end of things, because there's a lot of interest in that. So even if you're not flying it, we can look at some coding and some programming. I know, Rob, you touched on that earlier. Craig, you mentioned a little bit about it, just about the different applications of what you could do with that. So can you talk a little bit more about what you're doing with those or have done?
You want me to go, or?
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Okay, I'm just going to go to the Parrot. I mean, Parrot's the one that I know, but I know that DJI Tello also has. The thing with Parrot that's nice is they actually have if you go to edu.parrot.com, they'll have a whole thing on that's geared towards teachers. And it tells you like all the different languages, like you can use, like I said, Swift or Tinker, Workbench, Simulink, which I'm not familiar with, but Python as well. You can even use JavaScript. And if you want to go crazy, they actually have released the SDK so that you can actually, program the drone yourself.
Okay.
And I believe that they are trying to offer some curriculum tools. And actually now with the Parrot, if you actually search like Parrot Mambo curriculum, there's a lot of links, and there's a lot of people that have created a lot of material for teachers to use, so they don't have to start from scratch. They can stand on the shoulders of others.
Oh, that sounds great. How about you, Craig? What have you used?
I put it in the chat there. So I don't use it, but our grade 9 teacher here in Singapore uses it. So it's called robolink.com, and so you can code drones on that site. And he seems to rave about it and says good things about it. Again, personally, I haven't used it, but I watch him and the kids are engaged in that. Okay.
That sounds great. All right. Dave, have you had a chance to play around with any programming or coding at all?
Not in relation to drones. No, that's a bit out of my wheelhouse. I'm more keeping it on the ground as far as coding. Lego is about as far as I can go.
That's awesome. Well, listen, guys, I really appreciate you you coming and hanging out with me for nearly an hour. It's been a great discussion. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about before we start to wrap things up?
I just love the platform, Jason. Thanks for starting this. I know, we're hoping the 4 of us, including me, are going to hit more than 400 hits. 'Cause
Yeah, the goal is each
Yep.
time he goes a little bit more. Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
But kudos to
401, 401.
401. Okay, let's do it. There's a lot of people out there who are interested in this, especially in the educational applications of it. And they just don't know where to start. So I think we've given them a lot of places to start. We've given them some fun stories and been able to talk a little bit about, what the applications can look like. But to be honest with you, and I'm going to do it, the sky is the limit. With what we do with this. I'm sorry. I had to do it. I couldn't help myself. But all right, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys sticking around and talking with me tonight. And I know everyone's going to appreciate you being here. So thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Awesome. Thanks.
Take care.